Hello and welcome to the Jerry Hicks Show, exclusively on the Censored Freedom Network. Now, the man that thought MAGA extremism was a new part of the X Games, your host, Jerry Hicks.
Thank you so much, Dave, and thank you everybody for being here tonight on the Jerry Hicks Show. It is an honor and a pleasure to have all of you guys along for the ride. We have a ton of wild news to get into tonight, ladies and gentlemen, as well as a late-breaking story right before we hit the air about three soldiers actually, that have been arrested for possibly treason. So make sure you stick around for that. Our Doge Report and so very much more news and opinion coming your way tonight, folks. But first, I'd like to welcome everybody to the show, whether you are listening on BitChute, Rumble, X, or YouTube. If you enjoy what you see, make sure you hit the like button, follow button, subscribe button, bell, all of those fun little features that we have down below there. It really does help the algorithm know that you enjoy what we're doing, and it helps push it out to more people. So we would very, very much appreciate that, ladies and gentlemen. With that said, let's hop on over to our news rack and check out this late-breaking news story to start with. Kash Patel announces the arrest of 2 active-duty Army soldiers and a former soldier for stealing America's defense intelligence capabilities and empowering adversaries like China. According to a DOJ press release, Jian Zhao and Li Tian, I really hope I pronounced those right, though I really don't care because they're treasonous traitors, active-duty U.S. Army soldiers stationed at Joint Base Lewis McChord, along with Ryu Duan, a former U.S. soldier, were arrested today following indictments by federal grand juries in the District of Oregon and the Western District of Washington. Tian and Duan were charged in the District of Oregon for conspiring to commit bribery and theft of government property. Zhao was charged in the Western District of Washington for conspiring to obtain and transmit national defense information to an individual not authorized to receive it, and also for bribery and theft of government property. Patel said in an X post, these individuals have been charged with stealing America defense intelligence capabilities and empowering adversaries like China in betrayal of our country. He added they will now face American justice. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope these guys are tried. I hope they are found guilty for what they have done if they did it, which, I'm pretty sure they did according to this. And then I hope they pay the true penalty for treason as it's laid out in this country. If you know, you know. Ladies and gentlemen, with that said, we have our Doge update, and we have one hell of an update. Of course, we weren't here yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, as we had to take the day off due to some personal issues. But with that said, folks, we are back tonight. We have our Doge report starting with the NIH the day before, March 4th, canceled 7 grants for transgender experiments on animals. There was even more of this going on. I didn't think that there was going to be any more of these coming, but there are. $532,000 to use a mouse model to investigate the effects of cross-sex testosterone treatment. Yeah, let that one sink in for a moment. $532,000. Like President Trump said, this is real. We ain't making this up. $33,000 to test feminizing hormone therapies in the male rat. Now, the fake news tried to put their fake checkers on what President Trump said about the rats and transgender treatments, and of course, it turns out they had to retract their fake check, whatever it is, because it was real. And not only that, now they're trying to twist the story. Oh, it's real, but it's being used to study how humans would react. So it's still being used for humans. They're not just doing it to do it. It don't matter what they're doing it for. It don't need to be done at all. This is money wasted that we have no business wasting for these garbage products. Scams is what they are. They're not real experiments and tests. They're scams. Weekly credit card update, ladies and gentlemen. When we first brought you this story, there were roughly 4.6 million active credit cards and accounts. As of 2 weeks, the pilot program has expanded to 16 agencies to audit unused and unneeded credit cards, and 146,000 cards have been deactivated. That's a lot of money saved, ladies and gentlemen. I am so very, very thankful for Doge going through these contracts and getting rid of these waste and garbage money spending we don't need to be doing, right? And once again, folks, we have a huge update from our friend Doug Collins. Oh, I say our friend, I've never met the man. But VA Secretary Doug Collins, he is here to give us a 4-minute update on what's going on between them and Doge over at the VA. And folks, I think this is awesome because our VA, our veterans, deserve the absolute utmost best service that we can give them, right? They went and fought for this country, laid down their lives, or the possibility of laying down their lives. Of course, it wouldn't be needed if they laid down their lives, right? Saw others lay down their lives and were willing to do the same for the safety and freedoms of this country. So yes, they deserve the absolute utmost best service we can give them, and anything better than what they have received my entire lifetime. My father was in the VA. My father was yanked around so many different ways by the government in the VA. It's one of the reasons I have a serious distrust of governmental agencies, because I've seen the garbage they pull from the inside. Our family has been directly affected by the garbage that the government and the VA and people like this have pulled to try to hide and cover up things, Agent Orange, for instance. That only towards the very end of his life did they finally admit that they actually used. So yeah, I think our veterans deserve the absolute best treatment, and a whole lot better than they've received the entire time that I've ever had to deal with them, or my family has. But ladies and gentlemen, VA Secretary Doug Collins, a guy that I absolutely admire, is here to give us a 4-minute update, and we're going to give him the whole 4 minutes. Here we go.
Hey everybody, it's Doug. I've always promised you I was going to shoot straight with you, and you're going to always hear it from me. Well, I got a bit longer message for you today, so just bear with me because you'll want to hear what I'm going to say. The VA has been a punching bag among veterans, Congress, and the media for decades. Things need to change. We owe America's veterans and the hundreds and thousands of excellent VA employees solutions. For many years, veterans have been asking for a more efficient, accountable, and transparent VA. This administration is finally going to give the veterans what they want. President Trump has a mandate for generational change in Washington, and that's exactly what we're going to deliver at the VA. We're going to make the department work better for the veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors we are charged with serving. And here's how we're going to do it. In response to President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency and Workforce Optimization Initiative, VA is conducting a department-wide review of its organization, operations, and structure. Central to these efforts is a pragmatic and disciplined approach to eliminating waste and bureaucracy, increasing efficiency, and improving health care, benefits, and services to veterans. This will be a thorough and thoughtful review based on input from career VA employees, senior executives, as well as the top VA leaders. Our goal is to reduce VA employment levels to 2019 in-strength numbers, roughly 398,000 employees, from our current level of approximately 470,000 employees. Now that's a 15% decrease. We're going to accomplish this without making cuts to health care or benefits to veterans and VA beneficiaries. VA will always fulfill its duty to provide veterans, families, caregivers, and survivors the health care and benefits they have earned. That's a promise. And while we conduct our review, VA will continue to hire for more than 300,000 mission-critical positions to ensure health care and benefits for VA beneficiaries are not impacted. There are many people complaining about the changes we're making at the VA. But what most of them are really saying is, let's just keep doing the same thing at the VA has always done. No, not going to happen. The days of kicking the can down the road and measuring VA's progress by how much money it spends and how many people it employs rather than how many veterans it helps are over. Here's just one example. We're conducting a comprehensive review of the VA's 90,000 contracts, which are worth more than $67 billion. After reviewing roughly 2% of those contracts, we were able to cancel nearly 600 non-mission critical or duplicative agreements that will save the department roughly $900 million. Just imagine how much more we'll be able to save after we review the rest of VA contracts. The money we're saving by eliminating non-mission critical and duplicative contracts is money we're going to redirect to veteran-facing healthcare, benefits, and services, resulting in massive improvements in customer service and convenience. Improving services to the veterans is exactly why the VA exists. That is what everyone, Congress, the media, and VA employees should be focused on. There have been a lot of news coverage regarding recent layoffs at the VA. Now, we regret anyone who loses their job. And it's extraordinarily difficult for me, especially as a VA leader and your secretary, to make these types of decisions. But the federal government does not exist to employ people. It exists to serve people. At the VA, we are focused on serving veterans better than ever before. And doing so requires changing and improving the organization. Look, the VA was never perfect, and it will never be perfect. But we can and will make it better. When we find problems, we will fix them. We will communicate what we are doing to the public. That's what I'm doing right now. But we'll be making major changes, so get used to it. Right now, VA's biggest problem is that its bureaucracy and inefficiencies are getting in the way of customer convenience and service to veterans. As I have said before, we owe American veterans and hundreds of thousands of amazing employees solutions. And mark my words, that is what we will deliver.
And there we go, ladies and gentlemen, a message from Doug Collins, VA Secretary.
Hey, everybody, it's Doug.
Letting us know about all of the cuts. Well, he didn't really mention any cuts, did he? But that he is working hard for our veterans who deserve the absolute best. Now, you guys remember the story we started bringing you also a week or two ago about the different licenses for computer programs that have been found that are not needed within our government. Well, we have an update on that story, folks. The HUD has completed the same audit. Initial findings on paid software licenses are as follows. 35,855 ServiceNow licenses on 3 products, only using 84 licenses though, out of 35,000, only using 84. 11,020 Acrobat licenses with 0 users. 1,776 Cognos licenses, only using 325. I do like the 1776 though, that's kind of cool. 800 Westlaw Classic licenses, only using 216. And last but not least, 10,000 Java licenses, only using 400. So there's that update, folks, from the Doge team on the unused software licenses that are getting gone. CMS, the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, has canceled 2 contracts estimating $17.8 million annually, hired multiple software engineers, and is working with Doge, which is helping to accelerate the project. 2 contractors at CMS. Remember, this is what Al Green was fighting for, right? This is what he was yelling and screaming and acting an absolute idiotic fool about. We'll get to him here in just a moment. 2 contractors spent 9 years and $200 million working on a modern provider enrollment system. After 14 missed deadlines, 0 usable output was actually produced. The contract has now been canceled. Smart decision by the Center for Medicare Services. Next up, we have 247 cancellations of wasteful contracts with a ceiling value of nearly $999 million. That is insane. And savings of nearly $390 million, including a $3.5 million Department of VA consulting contract for outsourced enterprise mail management program support services, which the agency determined could be handled internally with the current Veteran Affairs team. So, again, huge shout out back to Doug Collins over there at the Veteran Affairs. We got a funny one for you here, ladies and gentlemen. Also coming out of the VA, they have canceled a $56,000 contract, wait for it, to water 8 plants for 5 years. This is nearly $1,400 per plant per year. The contract has been canceled, and Doge said that they will water the plants free of charge. No worries. They will still get watered without the money exchanging hands, ladies and gentlemen. So there we go. Doge doing even more good in this country. Watering plants and cutting spending all in the same day. Can't beat that for a day's work, folks. So, ladies and gentlemen, speaking of Al Green, the House has voted to censure Dem Rep Al Green for disrupting President Trump's address. And incredibly, 10 Democrats even voted with this, surprisingly enough. So, go ahead and bring this image up here real quick. I didn't really plan on bringing it up, but there we go. 10 Democrats actually even voted to censure Al Green for his absolute ignorance and stupidity. So let's see how well that went. After that happened, the Democrats did something really weird. You guys figure it out. Check this out.
By the Speaker.
So he's called down to the well. He's notified that he's been censured.
Separated order or switched. The House had come to order. The House had come to order.
And once again, Democrats being disruptive and having no care for the way things are supposed to go. Now, let's reverse the tables, right? Let's reverse the tables and say Republicans did this kind of thing during a Democrat-run House. Do you think we would hear the end of it from the media, from anybody around, from every senator, from every House member? They would be relentless on why it was so wrong for Republicans to do such a thing. But where's the outrage for this? You even had 10 Democrat House members vote for censuring this guy. And notice little Maxine Waters, the wrinkled raisin down here somewhere amongst the crew. That doesn't surprise me even a little bit. But apparently Al Green's not done with his stupidity, folks. He only continues to get more and more deranged by the day, saying he's going to bring articles of impeachment once again against Donald Trump. He explained, "I am absolutely going to do it. This level of incivility emanating from the presidency, much of it in policy, is something we cannot tolerate. If President Barack Hussein Obama had behaved in this fashion, he would have been impeached. There's no question in my mind." In what fashion, ladies and gentlemen? In what fashion? Does he mean cutting fraud, waste, and all that? Was he getting kickbacks that he's no longer getting? Is that why he's upset? Seems like it to me. He goes on to say, "So I believe that this president cannot escape this one thing that each member of Congress has. There are 435 of us, and we have it." And then compared himself to David and Trump as Goliath. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the level of stupid only continues to grow amongst these weird Democrats. It blows my mind that these people can justify anything they have done in the last 24, 48 hours. Period. There is no justification for their actions or the way they have been. They refused to celebrate a little girl who had passed away and had a wildlife refuge named after her, an American citizen. To hell with left, right, or center. She's an American citizen. It doesn't matter whose guest she is that night. The mother, I should say. Right? Or a little boy fighting brain cancer. I got really triggered the other night on the show. And I'd like to explain why that triggered me more so probably than it should have. And that's because my mother passed away from brain cancer. I've had that deeply affect my own family and my own life. So that's why that story touches home just a little bit more. And to watch the Democrats and their absolute hatred for citizens of this country, for a child nonetheless. It's sickening. I don't even think there's words to describe that kind of sickening behavior, because that doesn't even begin to describe it. From people like this. Folks, the Democrat Party, it needs to be disbanded. I don't say that as a Republican, I say that as an American. They have no care for their fellow Americans. They have no care for anything that will help this country. They care a lot about other countries. Here's that story right here. The mother of Jocelyn Nungare, I deeply apologize. That is a strange name. Nungare, I'm going to go with that. Fires back at shameful Democrats who refused to stand for her daughter. Check this out.
How did you feel, number one, when you got this great
I know whether you like Sean Hannity or not, still, give it a chance.
honor for your very brave daughter? And what did you think of the Democrats?
It was truly an honor, a very surreal feeling to be sitting
For some reason, it won't let me expand this box, so
in that area to remember the life that Jocelyn had. I found it very cowardly that a lot of the Democrats didn't stand, didn't clap, didn't do anything to support anything that Donald Trump is trying to do as president to make this country better. It was very shameful to the Democrats.
You know,
it was disgraceful, it was shameful, it was sickening, it was horrible, it was unhuman, it was inhumane. But it didn't stop there. Because the next day, the doofuses over at MSDNC decided they were going to carry on.
Worse than CNN is MSDNC, which is the worst. And the good news is very few people watch them anymore. They have lost such credibility. And frankly, what Nicole Wallace said, I've never been a fan of hers, and she's not very talented. But I'll tell you, what she said the other day about that young man is disgraceful. She should be forced to resign. And Rachel Maddow should be forced to resign. Nobody watches her anyway. I don't know if it's not possible they pay her as much money as I hear, but certainly she's lost all credibility, both of them. But what they said the other day, they should be forced to resign about that young person who is suffering greatly.
I mean, I'll take even a third of what they make to sit here and continue to tell the truth. That'd be great, right? But, ladies and gentlemen, Trump's so racist, isn't he? Protecting that little boy, wanting these two white women to be fired, so racist, so racist. But let's find out what they did say about this brave little hero that is DJ.
But I think this was a lesson in finding one thing that you let yourself feel. And I let myself feel joy about DJ, and I hope he's alive.
Oh, how nice of you. You let yourself feel joy. I'm sorry, what? You let yourself feel joy for that little boy? But that's not even the worst part, folks.
For another, 95 years, right? And I hope he lives
oh shit, I better cover my ass.
The life he wants to live. He wants to be a cop. He knows what he wants to do. And maybe when you have childhood cancer, that crystallizes for you. And I hope he...
Look at Jen Psaki. She does not like where this is going at all.
He has a long life as a law enforcement officer. But I hope he never has to defend the United States Capitol against Donald Trump supporters. And if he does, I hope he isn't one of the 6 who loses his life to suicide. And I hope he isn't one who has to testify against the people who carried out acts of seditious conspiracy and then live to see Donald Trump pardon those people.
No, most of those federal agents got away with everything they did, Nicole. But anyway, to take this celebration of this little boy and make it political, to try to wrap it back around and connect it to January 6th, that they set up to begin with? Are you bloody kidding me? That's disgraceful. That is sickening. I agree with Trump. She needs to be removed from the air, forced to retire. This woman has done nothing but propagandize the whole time I've ever seen her. Then again, she works for a propaganda machine, so, I mean, that makes sense. But let's hear what Rachel Maddow had to say. What did the Mad Cow actually say? I think we have that story. I thought we had that story. Maybe we don't have that story. I thought we had Mad Cows.
I think this was...
No, there's... Well, I do apologize. I know at one point I had Mad Cow pulled up here. But I guess that story got pushed to the side. I'm not sure. But Mad Cow also tried to make it absolutely political. And it's sick. And it's disturbing that you would take something like this, ladies and gentlemen, an innocent boy, a 13-year-old that has brain cancer. I know I keep saying it over and over, but damn. And make this political instead of just how great the American people are? Ladies and gentlemen, this is why people hate the Democrats so much. And this is why people are running from this party as quickly as they can get their feet to move. Again, that's not hyperbole, ladies and gentlemen. The podcast host Mark Halperin received an email Wednesday from a lifelong Democrat viewer that he was given permission to read on the air. Here's what it said. Last night, to me, was my breaking point. I watched with my husband as fellow Democrats, ironically wearing pink for women, sat there either stone-faced or seething with disgust while the family of Laken Riley was honored and a young boy with cancer become an honorary Secret Service agent, she continued. I'm switching parties. It's been coming for a while, but that was the moment for me. I have not been able to come to terms with what I witnessed from Democrats last night, she carries on. It was surreal. It was like an episode of Scooby-Doo where they pull off the masks and show you who the villains are. I literally couldn't sleep last night. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm done. As a woman, a mother, and a human, I'm just done, she says. The woman was particularly disgusted with Nicole Wallace's comments on MSNBC. She goes on to say, when I heard Nicole Wallace's heinous remarks, I said to my husband, who are these people? They don't represent me anymore or who I am. I can finally admit to myself that despite my personal dislike of Trump, I begrudgingly admit I support some of what he is actually doing. I can't think of much I support the Democrats have been doing for a long time, and frankly, I don't even know what they stand for now except the right to choose, which is no longer enough, and men having the right to invade what were once my personal spaces, she says. And she concluded, I'm flabbergasted at myself, but it feels like a relief to admit all of this. I can't say I'm MAGA, but I know now after last night, I'm no longer a Democrat. And that's fine. She don't have to go Republican, right? She can be independent. No problem with that. But at least she is able to see through what the Democrats are doing to this country. And the party has left the people a long, long time ago. It has. This is not the Democrat Party when I was a kid. This definitely isn't the Democrat Party of the 60s and 70s. The Democrat Party that happened when I was a kid or that existed is now what we call the Republican Party, folks. So I know I talked about this story the other day, and I'm bringing this back up for a reason. I always talk about the mocking stream media, right? Well, we had the mocking stream Dems the other day, 20 2 Democrats put out the exact same scripted video. So we'll watch this.
I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one.
I know it sounds like a jumbled mess, but you can tell they're all pretty well saying the same thing. Here in a minute, we're going to see the same scene start popping up across the Pocahontas and Schumer and Booker. Yeah, there's this scene that starts popping up everywhere. Across all of them. That same scene. So we talked about this, ladies and gentlemen, and how this happened, right? And it reminded me of the local news one that occurred. So, you know, when you watch the news in the evening, if you still watch the news in the evening, I haven't watched the TV in a number of years, not on purpose anyway. But when you watch the news in the evening, ladies and gentlemen, you've got your national news and you got your local news. And in your head, of course, they're separate. The national news goes out to everyone with the same message. And your local news is your local news, your individual local area messages. You're not going to have a national news influence. You know, might have a story or two that's national, but this is going to be your local news, right? They're not going to have the propaganda like the nationwide news stations would have. Maybe I'm the only one that used to believe that. But ladies and gentlemen, this came out a couple years ago. Maybe you guys remember it. Maybe some of you haven't seen it. But this is disturbing to me.
Hi, I'm Fox San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But we are concerned about troubling trend of irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy. This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
The Chiefs-Ravens match.
I'm not sure how long we've been muted. I know it's been a couple seconds, folks, and I do apologize for that. Federal judge denies USAID contractors emergency TRO to block Trump's termination of their contracts.
The Chiefs.
Okay, so we haven't been muted long. I know that because that was playing when I muted it. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Why was Perkins Coie allowed to have security clearances? Oh, that's right, Hillary Clinton, right? So now this law firm that worked to do nothing but try to hurt Trump at every corner and was definitely part of the deep state unquestionably will be paying a price for what they have done. The Perkins Coie law firm will no longer have security clearances. Missouri Attorney General Bailey demands DOJ investigate if Biden's cognitive decline allowed staffers to make decisions without his knowledge. So we remember that Mike Johnson, let's listen to what he has to say.
Why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas.
And he said, no, we didn't do that. We just, we're going to do a study. But that's not what he had actually signed. So, ladies and gentlemen, due to his cognitive decline, was it possible that we had many, many unelected officials that were allowed to push through radical policy without his knowing approval? If true, then the executive orders, pardons, and all other actions are unconstitutional and legally void. So there is a investigation going on right now by the DOJ to find out just how deep the corruption was going in the Biden White House, who really was running this country. President Trump modifies tariffs on Mexico and Canada to exclude parts, assembly, and farm products as American manufacturing and farming makes a comeback. So, not necessarily. He lowered the tariffs. Duties imposed to address the flow of illicit drugs across our borders are now 25% tariff on goods that do not satisfy U.S., Mexico, Canada agreement. A lower 10% tariff on those energy products imported from Canada. A lower 10% tariff on potash imported from Canada. No tariffs on those goods that claim and qualify for USMCA protection. So definitely giving them a chance to do right. But ladies and gentlemen, every single country has been charging us much, much higher and buying much less from us than we buy from them. Or much more from us than we buy from them. So why are we not charging the equivalent tariffs that they are? Right? We should be. President Trump says he plans to release records on assassination attempts. They are giving me a report next week sometime. Says we can no longer blame Biden for that one. He should have released that a long time ago. So they're giving me a report next week sometime. He said, I want to release the report. So, folks, we may find out next week who exactly, as if we don't already have our idea, was behind the assassination attempt on President Trump, or at least more information therein. Sebastian Gorka reveals what Trump told him to do with an ISIS terrorist camp. End them all, end them now. This has to do with the Abbeygate terrorists that were just caught. Let's see what
I
Fox
saw
News
the
says.
pits of hell. I saw,
ladies and gentlemen, Sebastian Gorka.
Darkness in that man's eyes, the likes of which I'd never seen before. And I just felt good for the families. President Trump spoke to those families privately before the joint session from the White House. I was there with Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, and we gave them just a little bit of closure for their loved ones when we brought that walking piece of human filth, evil, to justice last night. And I salute everyone.
So who are we talking about, ladies and gentlemen? Surveilling jihads over the last 4 years. They've been watching this group. The leader of the group, I'm assuming, hold on here, that was responsible for Abbeygate, yes. The one responsible for Abbeygate is now in custody in the United States. And that's that story again about the 22 Democrats. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our news for tonight. It's been a wild ride. This one has, ain't it, folks? It's only going to get crazier from here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you hashtag MockingStreamMedia if you shared those stories. And with that said, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. And we'll see you all again tomorrow. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jerry Hicks. This is the Jerry Hicks Show. And remember, stay awake, but dare to dream. Stand strong, Patriots. Good night, everybody.